But we'll get there. Feeling better. Moved the entire studio, set up and everything, so that's brand new. Alright, so we're going to crack open a brand new brush. In the chat, go ahead and tell me which one we should get started on first. So all I've done here is base colors on these guys, and then I applied one of my washes. So we can either start on this guy, we can start on this bad boy, or we can get it popping on this guy. So again, all I've done are base colors, nothing crazy. Very basic stuff. So just base coat with a wash. Again, so go ahead and drop it in the chat which one I should get started on first. We're going to do all three on stream today, so we're going to knock it out completely, which I know is pretty rare, but...
So that's what I think is love.
Or do a react. Give me a thumbs up for the red guy. Give me a laughing face for the skeleton. Give me a heart for the minotaur. And that way I'll know which one we're going to go for first. These are just base coats plus washes, so that's how we got all of the nice shading. The wash that I use is the same on all of them, except on this I used a little bit of purple. And you can kind of see the purple in there. He just has brown washes all over him for the shading. And then this guy just has the same brown washes as well. So that's what we're seeing there. So, you know what? Let's get started on this guy. So I'm thinking we're just going to keep these at the tabletop level that I normally do. So nothing insane, right? I mean, I might go above and beyond a little bit there. But, you know, what can you do? So I think the easiest thing to start with first is going to be his skin, most likely, so we can start working on that. Alright, so for the skin, or his fur, whatever we're going to define that as, I think a good highlight... No, we're not... That's a little bit too much. That's a little bit too much. I don't actually know if this color will show up. It might. Let's see if I have some dried on the cap here. So yeah, that looks like it's not going to be bright enough necessarily. So what we can do is just custom mix a color. So I'm going to put some here. Actually, obviously I was a bit of a moron and I didn't shake it up, so we got to do that really quick. Alright, so I'm going to put some out here on the palette. I'm going to use a little bit of this Army Painter Quick Shade Washing Mix Medium, or Wash Mixing Medium, sorry, I conjugated that incorrectly completely. Then what I think I'm going to do is actually add in a little bit of this fur brown color. And it should be a nice tone for us to use to mix it all together. The ratio that I'm doing here is a 1-1-1 3-part mixture, if you're following along at home. Alright, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water out of this nice little dropper vial here. Probably 2 drops. 2 drops of water. And I'm going to use the not brand new brush to mix it. I may have to darken that up a little bit. Let's test it here on the good old thumb. Good old thumb test. So you can see it's very, very transparent. Alright, so I'm going to darken it up just a tad bit. To do that, I'm going to add a little bit straight up black paint. And a little bit of raw sienna. Both of these are really high pigment colors, though. Since this is so thin, I'm just going to mix it directly in without getting it like all over the palette. Which could be a challenge here since I've already mixed so much of it, but it is really, really thinned out. So you can see what I've mixed. You can see it drying, like it's literally almost see-through. So now it's the color of the skin it is pretty much currently. Add a little bit of this raw sienna to brighten it up. And let's see what we're left with here. So now the color, a little bit lighter. Let's see, does that work for me? You know, I kind of want it to be a little bit warmer, but I think that'll work okay. How's everybody doing today? Hope you guys are having a great day. Everybody's almost made it to the end of the week, so that's good for you guys. Working on some Arcadia Quest monsters here. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this fur brown. And by a little bit, I mean probably more than I actually need, but I'm just trying to get this color so perfect. That actually looks perfect now, and I think with all the mixing that we've done, I mean, I've mixed way too much of this, but sometimes that happens. That's gonna be great. The consistency's great. Perfect. All right, let's get to work. So, let me move my window over here really quick. Feel free to ask any questions you may have in the chat. I'll be able to respond to you. As you can see, I'm running some specials currently. Sorry, I'm like literally talking directly into the mic. Sorry, guys. I do notice on my preview it just said something went wrong with the video, so I'm hoping that's not true. It doesn't appear to be true. Oh, there was something going on. So everyone says red guy. Sorry. I wasn't actually seeing the stuff. What's up, Sean? Alright, so one of the windows that I'm watching is messed up, the other one's not. I think the stream is fine though. Let me know if it's messed up. I don't think it should be. Alright, so we're gonna get started here. So, since the paint is pretty thin, it makes our job nice and easy. I'm just going to go for the knuckles first. Anywhere where that color is going to be kind of standing out. We're just going to layer it and layer it and layer it. What's up, man? Hey, Kim. Alrighty. We may actually do the fur a little bit different, but I'm going to use the same base color currently. Let me actually move this down. I didn't realize where my hand was. There we go. And yeah, do let me know in the chat if anything happens to the stream. I re-networked everything in my house, so I should be forcing Facebook, no matter what, to give us a decent connection. No matter how they want to treat us. I'm force-feeding it to them. You can see it's already drying where we applied that first layer. Not really going to go for much contrast here on this guy. Mostly just to keep the skin cool. Now the rest of him, yeah, we can go kind of overboard, but since these characters are kind of cartoony, that's what we're going to. Yeah, that's what I just noticed. Sorry about that, Batch. There you go. But yeah, so the color that I'm applying right now is going to be pretty subtle. I mean, you guys should be able to pick it up, but want to keep those transitions nice and smooth as we're highlighting everything up. Since this game is like really cartoony, I think that's, as I yell into the mic, hold on. I think that's the direction I want to keep it going in, is that cartoony, kind of smooth 2D look. And we're just going to tackle it like from, I don't know, essentially counterclockwise, but I also see there's like a hair directly on the tip of my finger there. There we go. That was dangerous. Alright, so we're just going to keep pushing this pigment around. Again, if you're just now joining, this is a mixture of a few different things that we've done. Tiny bit of water. The viscosity that we're getting is mostly from the Army Painter wash mixing medium. So I'm just going to go back over these knuckles one more time to see if the third layer is going to make a difference. That knuckle definitely wasn't dry, so it's got some texture. I'll just add more paint. There we go. He does have some veins and stuff, so we may go back in a minute. On average, how many layers? Probably just 2. Just 2 layers. There we go. So yeah, usually just 2 layers of paint. All the shading that we got was just from doing a wash on top of every base color. And I used the same wash for all of the entire miniature, so didn't really have to do much there. So if I'm doing these tabletop level, as you'll see, this my current special that I'm running is 10% off of any tier that I do, but I'm also running a special for Kingdom Death Monster. If you order that game, you can get it my second tier for the lowest price. But usually for tabletop level commissions, I only do the base color, shading, and then highlighting it back up from that base color. So just like one level of highlighting. But since these are my miniatures for my own personal copy, we may go up another step from that. So we'll see. But I would definitely want to keep the color on these while they are cartoony. I want to keep the shading like really, really smooth almost, kind of keeping it cartoony, not very realistic. The shading should be realistic, but I don't want like the colors or anything to be super realistic. To kind of match the theme of the game. Alright, so I think the highlights do look pretty good, and they do work best with just the 2 coats there that we did. So I'm going to finish that out on the whole miniature, and then we'll do one more set of highlights. And I'll definitely be doing the kind of fur brown direction that we had mixed it with. That seems to work best. Using all Army Painter stuff right now, with a little bit of Delta Creative, but anytime I use a product, I'll tell you what I'm using. So there's no questions there. If you have any other questions, you can always ask me in the chat. If you're interested in getting any commission painting done, feel free to send me a message. Like and follow the page so you can stay up to date with all my live streams. Past couple days I've been pretty sick, so my streaming schedule has been really messed up. I know I'll be getting a copy of Anachrony in the mail, so that'll be another commission that a client's sending me, so that'll be pretty cool to paint. You'll be able to follow along with that. More recently, I've been doing a Warhammer commission. You can always check my albums here on the Facebook page to see previous commissions, or you can just see the go to the videos tab, check out the live streams there to see what's been going on. Sorry, I'm holding him at a weird angle, so he's probably out of focus. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to finish up the chest, then we can focus on his face. The face, definitely I want to give more detail to, so it kind of pops. Yeah, so normally I use, I only have like 2 Games Workshop washes. Otherwise, I use all Army Painter or all Vallejo washes. My favorite washes in the world for sure that you can just buy are the Vallejo Skin Tone Wash, the Army Painter Strong Tone and Dark Tone, and then the Vallejo Game Color Sepia. But I do mix my own washes, and those are a mix of acrylic paint, the matte medium, and then the Master's Touch, or it's not Master's Touch, I think it's Liquitex, like the resin medium, and I just mix them into these large bottles here. Alright, so now we can focus on his face. Alright, so we're going to start knocking this out real quick. So then we'll decide kind of the direction we want to go. I'm actually tempted to do a purple wash, like a deep pigment wash on some of the shadows on his face, like underneath his eyes, by his ears a little bit, and you'll see how I can pull that off too, using Army Painter's new product, which I am now completely obsessed with. What's hilarious too, I forgot to actually hit record on my local recording when I did the live test of that stuff, and then since I was having connection problems, Facebook Live also didn't even re-upload it in HD, so that was like amazing. I also like to use a loaded brush whenever I'm doing this stuff, so whenever I first put the brush on the miniature, the majority of the paint comes off, and then as I move it around, there's barely any left, so you're able to do shading, sort of, but I say the word shading, but really you're able to do highlights a lot easier. There's some tutorials online that teach you how to do that stuff. As a part of my Patreon, I have different classes and tutorials where I explain that in my process in detail if you're a painter. Alright, so this color is seemingly working very well, and then I want to do a more like red, warmer highlight color for the rest of him. So we'll do that as well. If you're just now joining, this is one of 3 miniatures that we're going to complete today during this stream. Got some October specials going on currently. If you ever need anything painted, let me know. I run commissions off of deposits, so you pay a 50% down payment, and then the rest is due on completion. All kinds of stuff going on. A little bit about me if you haven't seen the page before. I am a very new Army Painter affiliate. I'm an affiliate for Stone Meyer Games, the guys that make Scythe. I'm on their services page or whatever for painting Scythe. I take all kinds of commissions, very affordable prices. You can check my reviews. And you can just check my work. Alright, so that base layer is done. You can see it's a little bit shiny. That's mostly because of the medium that we're using to mix with it. Also, the lights are right above this guy. So, we need to bring up, so to speak, tone up the actual colors we're using. So, I'm going to bring in a lot more of this fur brown. Like, way too much of this fur brown. A little bit more water, so I already had this really crappy brush in the water bucket. So that way I'm adding a little bit more water back to this mix. Alright, let's check it out on my thumb here. Looks good to me. Yep, looks nice. Alright. Alright. So now we're going to start focusing on pinpoint highlights. So we're going to go on the knuckles only. And this color looks amazing for what I'm trying to do, so I'm very stoked about that. So just going for the knuckles is an easy way to get that more realistic look for highlights, especially on hands. It doesn't matter the size of the hand either. Like, these are larger miniatures, but even if you're doing 28mm size stuff, just going for the knuckles. Easiest way to make your hands look great. Alright, so we're going to focus on the face first. While I'm doing this, I want to make sure I'm still leaving that color that we just applied. So I'm being kind of strategic as to where I'm applying these highlights, so that we get the most subtle transition possible on our colors. So the quality that you're seeing right here would be above tabletop quality now, just because I'm doing a two-step highlight. But the highlight that you saw me do in the last step, just one tone up, that's how that goes for tabletop quality stuff. Make sure to get the eyelid here. There we go. Actually, I want to apply that a little bit more. Hold on, sorry, I know it's off camera. There we go. Now we got that going. Alright. Get the furrowed eyebrow going. Nice and simple. So the side of his face is looking good. Let's see what happens if I go back over for a second layer. I still think it'll dry just as dark as it did before, but I'm not 100% sure since we are kind of working in unknown territory with this color mix. So we'll see. Go up in the ear there, get some of the earlobe action. All right. Let's see. Away from the camera, it's super subtle, which is exactly what I was going for. Alright, we'll finish up the ear here. And I will try and rhyme most of the things that I say. Again, if you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out today. Gonna be knocking out some paint jobs. And you can see I am really fast, so whenever you book a job with me, you usually get it in 15 business days or less, depending on the size. Highlighting this vein right here, the very edge of the muscle. Top of this muscle. There we go. Alright, knocking that out. Going for this next area. Yeah, if you are looking to get anything painted, feel free to send me a message or hit the get quote button, whatever you'd like to do. If you want an estimate, or if you want to try and put together an estimate without asking, you can go to my website, minipainting.studio/pricing, and you'll see a nice little comparison guide of the different levels that I paint and how to figure out the prices. Currently doing 10% off all orders through the end of the month. Basing is included for free. Now obviously this dude doesn't have any basing. If you would like to see an example, just check out some of my other commissions on the page and you'll see it. Alright, so I think he is done on that end. Now I'm going to do his back. And if you're a painter yourself, feel free to follow my page. You'll be able to see me paint, do commission work. I also have a Patreon that I'm launching where I will have all of my streams condensed and sped up for painters. There's also different classes that I'll be doing, tutorial videos, you name it. So if you're a painter looking for tips or more consistent stuff put out every single week, every weekend, that's a really good source for that. And that's really cheap as well. I normally have more energy. I'm really faking it today because I've been sick the past, well, really all week I've been sick. Alright, so it was that easy on the back. Literally, I just highlight the top ridges of his actual shoulders and everything. So yeah, we're keeping it really subtle. Actually, you can see right here, that transition's a little bit too rough. So I'm going to go back in with the darker color I still have mixed. And we're going to bridge the gap so it's not as harsh. There we go. So now that's not harsh anymore. Alright, going to come back around. Finish that. Come back around over here. Finish this. Okay, so now we can do this side of his face. Actually, let's do these knuckles. Simple as that. We'll do his kneecap. And we're done. Alright. Now to do the other half of his face. There's also a hair on the tip of this brush. There we go. Oh, is it the brush itself? Let's see. No. Alright, so we fixed that. So we're going to be going in. Same method, different size. Size, different side. Just layering on the highlight while keeping some of that previous layer visible. There we go. Alright. Continuing it on his eyebrow. Gonna get the bottom eyelid here. There we go. Inside of his ear. Make sure that's nice and good to go. There we go. Alright, so that is the basic skin tone for him. So that's what we're working with. So really nice and subtle. And you can see it's a little bit shiny, but that's just the nature of the colors that we used. So the trick that I wanted to do here was get a really deep purple around his eyes and in those shadows. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use this Army Painter Alien purple color, which is pretty dark, but not too dark. We're going to mix in some of the Army Painter Quick Shade, 1-to-1 ratio, add some clean water to it. About 4 drops. Mix it directly with the brush. So as you can see, it's super, super watery. Maybe you can't see, but either way, we're talking about mixing our own wash here. And I think I'm actually going to drop in a little bit of this Vallejo Game Color, Gory Red. Mostly because of the shade that it is. It's really, really deep. There we go. Let me see right on camera. But now it's actually more red than it is purple, so I think we're just straight up going to add Army Painter Purple Tone. Doing so by just dropping it here on the left, and then I'll mix it in. Alright. See what we got. I want it to just kind of be like a bruised purpley color. There we go. Still looks pretty red, but... Oh, it actually looks perfect on my thumb. So rather gently, we're going to start pushing it in around his eyeball, into those shadows. What's nice about using the medium that I just put in there is that it allows you to thin your paint or the pigment so much that it dries with pure pigment. Meaning I can replace the colors where it's drying with whatever color I'm applying. So right around his eyes, I want it to be this dark, dark purpley red. And this is how I'm going to be able to do that. And get nice clean shading transitions and all that. Just feathering it out all around his eye. And I can adjust the camera too once this dries so you can see it better. But you'll be able to see what we pulled off. This is definitely an advanced technique, so not something you would see mostly on tabletop level commissions. Maybe on some heroics, depending on the miniature. So I'm now reapplying some of this brown. There we go. Alright. Yeah, I just noticed. Alright, so let me adjust my camera here so you can get a better view. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna zoom on in here. Alright, so when I do that, you can see the purple effect that I just added in there. Alright, so I'm going to keep layering that in there for just a minute. You can see how I'm just feathering it in. So as it dries, it gives us that nice transition. Do the next side. Hopefully Facebook is being nice to us today with the stream. If they're not, I'll have it re-uploaded to YouTube in 1080p as soon as we're done. I have noticed in my preview window it's lagging a little bit off and on, so hopefully it's not too bad for y'all. But as we've learned with Facebook Live, it is a never-ending battle, so it seems. So you can see it's dry right there. Toned it out with that red, really awesome. Awesome. Well, then I guess it's just my preview, so that is really sweet to hear. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see this effect. I think you can. I believe. If you can see the red effect that I'm actually putting in, let me know. It's a really subtle process, but it dries really fast. It gives you that really cool effect. This is also a really good way to do like glowing effects, because you can do it with any type of color. Wet blending would, but not in my method, Cynthia. Only because you can tell, right? Like I already did all the shading with that basic color. So the actual blending involved would have had to have been done at the exact same time. So this allows me to do all the majority shading and highlights first, and then I physically go back in and really control the effect that I'm doing. So, all right, so that's it for that. So the next thing that we're going to do, let's knock out his metallic color here. So I'm going to back the camera up. So I decided to do it. There are a couple of artists that I really like that are really good for color inspiration. So there's Paul Bonner. There's a guy named Brahm. There are a couple other ones as well, but like, you know, this monster, I would assume since he's covered in fur, right, and he's cartoony, and he's brown, complementary colors for brown are any kind of magenta or like rosy color or a tealish blue color. So I could have gone like for an interesting kind of tealish blue bruised effect around his eyes, but instead going for the red color just makes him seem more sinister, and it also ties into the same tone that we used for his little neck piece there as well. So that's probably why I chose that. No particular reason. Alright, so, like I was going to do here real quick, sorry, I was going to back out the camera. Oh, did I already do that? Wait. Try to figure out how far away I need it to be. That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to configure the video again one more time. Make sure that we're all crisp. Alright, it looks like we're good to go. Okay. So the color that we need out here next. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera like crazy there. There's my hand. Ew. All right. Actually, I just really messed up the camera. Oh, good lord. All right, there's that. Okay. Here's this dude. Okay. All right, so the color that I used looks like I used this Vallejo copper, but instead for the highlight we're actually going to use Army Painter Weapon Bronze. And I am going to thin it out a tiny bit with the quick shade wash. Just a tiny bit. If you've never tried thinning down your metallics before, depending on the brand you use, I'd highly suggest it. It's a nice trick to have in your arsenal. That looks good. All right. So let's start on the back of his neck here. Oh, did I get... Look at that. There's some of the scarlet paint. Let me use a dry brush, see if I can push it off. Nope, that somehow got on there. Okay, that's cool. Just go back over it. Bam, it's like it never happened. Alright. Back to this color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the ring there around the neck. And you can see that highlight pretty much immediately. The Army Painter paints are super shiny metallics. They're probably my favorite brand of metallic paints. Vallejo being second. I'm interested in trying Warcolor. I do have an order of, coming in from them for some skin tones, but I would like to try their metallics as well. And remember, our paint is thinned just a tiny bit, so it's going to dry a little bit different than the application you're seeing. But it also makes it more manageable on the tip of my brush. Really just trying to consciously highlight this metal here. I don't want it to look brand new. Yeah, so if your metallics dry on the tip of your brush really fast, you're either using a company like P3 or Games Workshop. Some Reaper paints are like that. Vallejo actually dries pretty fast. Army Painter, the medium that they mix, is really nice about not drying super fast, but try adding, like, if your brush is clean and you have a little bit on your palette, just mix like one brush worth of water in with your paint, and it should be okay. A lot of times, you know, at least when I was starting to paint, or I wasn't painting the same level I do now, I used to kind of be intimidated to try and thin down metallic paints, because you would assume, right, it would push the metallic flakes around. Depending on the brand, that's true, but if you're using a nicer paint, it really doesn't matter that much, and you can thin them down. Alright. So, you can see that effect that we got on the back looks really nice. And it'll pop really well against that cool bruised effect that we did. I've got all kinds of advice for painting metallics, so I've used every brand out there, so I know exactly what to do with each one, funny enough. But that's what happens when you paint as much as me. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out today. Hope you had a nice and easy week. Finishing up this collar here. And I just realized I bent the head of his hammer here so bad. Actually, it's ripping. So let me secure that really quick with some super glue. That's the only thing that kind of sucks about these miniatures, because they're soft plastic. But we can fix that with some good old-fashioned super glue here. Alright, so I'm going to open him up. get in where it's kind of torn. Actually, I don't even think this is the right super glue I'm supposed to be using. No, it is not. This one doesn't actually work. Alright, so somewhere on my table is my super glue. I just have no idea where it is. So give me 1 second while I figure that out. I'll put him down right there. Alright, super glue, where are you at, man? There it is. Alright. Let's fix it. Alright. So, I think this cap isn't messed up. It shouldn't be. It is. Alright, give me a second. There we go. Ooh, that's too much. There we go. Just kind of push that into position and it'll dry just fine. There we go. Alright, so we were almost done with the metallic on there, so let's just finish it up. This side's in a little bit more shadow than the other side, so I'm not going to highlight it up as much. Keep it way more subtle. Thinning it out quite a bit here to do this little section. It's almost kind of like you're dry brushing it with wet paint. Alright, so his neckband is complete. Looking pretty good. So let's do his eyeballs. We're going to use that same wash. Just really, really thin down on the inside of his eyes. I'm going to add a little bit more water. See how thin it is on my finger here on this gold. So as you can see, we're talking super duper duper thin. Almost where you can't see it, which is perfect. Alright, so we're going to go in here. Just dragging the brush on there so that we can get kind of like a bloodshot effect. Get him. Ooh, my hand was shaking. There we go. Keep him nice and spooky for Halloween, right? And the idea here is just to get a little bit of red in it, so that when I go back in with the highlight color, we can cover it up and it'll just show through just a tiny bit. Arcadia Quest is one of those games where you can actually do a little bit more advanced techniques just because the miniatures are sculpted the way they are. Alright. So, added that red effect just like right to the insides of his eyeballs. That's going to be out of focus like crazy, but you can at least see the color. So, now we're going to highlight it up. I'm going to let that palette do its own thing and dry out so I can reuse the other side of it. Bring in a new one. Alright. So for his eyeballs, we're going to use Army Painter's Skeleton Bone. Nice and spooky. We're also going to use this color for his teeth and everything. His horns. One should be fine. Alright. Mix together our concoction. Looks good. See how thin it is on the thumb here. Looks good to me. Nice and thin. Alright. There we go. Gonna do one more layer. So there we go. Still have the little bloodshot effect, but you're able to get the actual color in there. Let's do the other one. Alright, let's highlight up his teeth. You can see I pretty much drew 3 lines. So I did the left edge, right down the middle, and then on the right edge. That'll give the big teeth texture. Easiest way to highlight something like that, just kind of like how we do the knuckles only on fingers and on hands. Same thing with teeth, just do the left-hand side of a big tooth, down the middle, and then the right-hand side, and it'll look very realistic. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out. We're painting some Arcadia Quest bad guys. If you need any commission painting, definitely check out my page. Running some specials for the end of the month. As long as you can keep your paint smooth, it shouldn't be as bad as you're thinking. In some instances as well, you can paint better because you're afraid of the paint job. So it's like fear allows you to do a better paint job than you normally would. I've discovered that as well. If you think something's going to be difficult, just start working on it. Gonna do his bottom tooth here. Whoop. There we go. So he has a nice ugly smile going on. Alright, doing the tooth again. I'm actually going to switch brushes. That one's tip isn't as nice. This one is. I just wanted it to be dry. All right. So remember on the tooth, you're going to do right-hand side, right down the middle, and then left-hand side. So that's what I'm doing here. There we go. Little fingernail action. The hooves, I'm going to do a brown, or not a brown, but a gray. Alright, so that is it for the skin and the teeth and the metallic color there. So now let's knock out this purple cloth that he's wearing. So we're going to use that same Army Painter Alien Purple. This one's going to be pretty easy. We're not going to do a lot of detail on it. Alright, so... make sure I don't have a bunch of water loaded in there. So to get the effect that I'm doing here, where it's more purple in the middle and then not on the edges, I'm just starting in the middle and then feathering it out to the left and then feathering it out to the right. On the little brim here, just applying direct pigment. We didn't water this paint down at all or anything. We're just doing direct alien purple. The backside doesn't matter as much, but we'll still apply some there. Really just a thin coat to show the color still exists. Alright. So let's see. Not bad. I do want it to be dark, so that's the effect I'm going for there. Maybe a little bit more on the inside. There we go. Over here. Really can't see it as well at all, so focus doesn't have to be as heavy. Still doing that same technique though. Starting in the middle, feathering out to the edges. As long as your brush is loaded, you can do it all. Alright. So, that purple is finished. You can see it pops pretty well against the skin. The purple there really helps the red eyeball pop out. Alright, so now we're going to do the loincloth. We're going to do, sorry, excuse me, we're going to do a couple thin coats. to get a nice shade going. Or highlight, rather, but you get the idea. Alright. So this should be... Now, for me, I have a reflection, but let's see. It's good enough for me. Simple effect there on the loincloth. He does have the loincloth in the front, so we gotta do that as well. The loincloth in the front is under much more shadow, so we're just going to apply a thin coat for the highlight. We're not going to go back over it multiple times. There you go. So you can see I just barely applied it. I'm going to put another super thin coat on the part of the loincloth on the ground, just so you know that it's barely purple. But otherwise, that's all we need for him. Did not do the horns yet, so we can go ahead and do that. Horns are going to be a little bit different. I mean, I could actually just set him down and do this, but let me figure out how I want to hold it. So, my wash didn't... Hold on. I may actually have to wash this again real quick. So, I'm going to use Game Color Sepia. Just got it all over my fingers, so hold on. Definitely don't want it to come off on the miniature. Alright. See if I can't get those ridges they sculpted in to come out a little bit more. So applying it pretty thick. Alright. So, while we're letting that dry, why don't we move on to the red dude? Why is that? Well, because he has bones in his backpack, and we already have the color out that we're going to use to highlight it, so let's go ahead and do it. So let's get to work here. Pretty simple stuff. Ooh, I see a wild hair on the tip of this brush. I'm gonna have to take care of that. There we go. Thanks for hanging out with us today. So all the bones back here were painted the color that I'm applying right now first. And then I just applied one wash. And that's how we got all the shading that we're now painting on top of. Which obviously makes it look much better than if you just painted it a solid color. It's just a really simple two-step highlight here. I don't want these bones to be like bright white or anything, so that's, you know, this is the only color we're going to be using. Pretty standard. It's what I normally do for all bones, including heroic tier stuff whenever I'm doing those level commissions, because bones can only have so much detail. Display level stuff I do a little bit more, but... Alright, so you can see that little effect right there. We've only done like that portion of the skull and those bones, but it gives you more shading. So for the top part, I am going to have to do multiple thin coats, just so that we get a nice even color. A lot of people don't necessarily like doing multiple coats because it seems like it would take more time, but when you're painting so thin, it dries really fast, so you're not actually spending more time. You get a much better result, so that's my 2 cents on that. See, I'm just trying to figure out where I want the actual highlight to end. Okay. Right about there. In the back towards here. There we go. Making sure I'm spreading that pigment around really thin. Perfect. Looks good to me. Yep. All right. So you can see really quick shading on those parts. Oh, and check that out. The bottom side didn't actually get hit with that wash. So I'm just going to go back over the bottom of these bones with the sepia, and then we'll just ignore that anybody would ever potentially ever look at the bottom of the bones, and we're going to call that good. All right. So those bones are finished. We're probably going to tackle his skin next, this crazy looking dude. We can do his teeth real quick. He's got these big old chompers. So you can see I'm highlighting different parts of his teeth. So I'm not just doing the whole tooth. Like on this tooth I'm doing the bottom. This tooth I went up and around like an R shape. So breaking up the teeth like that makes them more realistic looking. Especially since he has a lot of bone on the back, right? That way you're able to break it up. Some teeth you can choose to not highlight at all, and it'll be like a dead tooth, assuming that it's dark enough. Which is what I'm doing to that tooth right there. I'm not going to touch it. So that'll make him look a little bit gnarlier. Hopefully that effect reads well on camera. Where's my focal point? There it is. I think it does. You can tell. Alright, so we got his teeth. His eyes don't actually have any dots like the other guy did, so we're going to have to improvise on that. But I've been streaming for 1 hour and 15 minutes, so we'll check him out again one more time. What were we waiting on drying? I forget. Oh, his horns, right. So, what we will do whenever I get back from my quick break here, we'll knock out his horns. And then we'll finish his hair and he'll be done. So we would have finished this guy completely in about 1 hour. He'll probably take less than 1 hour because red's really simple, and then this is just one brown color to highlight. And then once we do that, we will be able to move on to the big guy here. You can see we have good shading on him already. So. Alright, so I'm going to take a quick few-minute break here. Thanks for hanging out with me. You guys can stay if you would like. It's just going to be a couple minutes. All right, we're back. Okie dokie. I want to say thank you to Kim for signing up for the Patreon. First content for that will be coming out this weekend. You'll be added to the Facebook group as well, so you'll be able to check that out. All right, so let's see. What should we tackle here? So his horns were left. I may want to do a darker color, so actually I'm going to mix the bone color with this sepia tone. For anybody else watching that's just now joining, we are working on these Arcadia quest baddies. If you've been watching a long time, I know I sound a bit like a stuffy-nosed broken record, but I am running some commission specials here towards the end of the month. If you yourself are a painter, feel free to like and follow the page. I stream all the time whenever I'm working on commissions. I do have some commissions going on right now. I just figured today I would take a break, work on some other stuff. I do have a Patreon as well. If you are a painter and would like to either see the condensed versions of all my streams every weekend, get in on some painting classes, stuff like that, get feedback from me, learn some tips and tricks, etc., etc., feel free to check out the Patreon. It's pretty cheap. And that way, too, you don't have to cipher through, you know, the hours and hours and hours and hours of streams that I end up putting out every single week. Take requests for product reviews, things like that. Alright, so what you can see what I'm doing here, I'm essentially just layering these highlights up. The horns aren't going to be too fancy, but they're going to look okay. And of course it looks like I got some of that paint on the ear, so I'm going to grab a little bit of this brown that I had over here. Cover that right up real quick. There we go. Alright. Keep layering on the edges. This is super, super thin, so the coverage is pretty bad. But all we're trying to do here is get a little bit of a thin base so that when I go over with the direct color, it will kind of trick your eye into thinking there's more of a texture there than there really is. The bottom, we're not going to touch at all. That doesn't matter. So we're just going to be focused here on the edges and the top. So now that we've done that, I can go back to that direct bone color. And this is where we're going to be pretty precise. Just moving in straight lines to the best of our ability. There we go. So you can see what we did there. It's a little subtle, but we're just layering in those highlights. And then we're going to do the same on the other one. You're essentially doing the letter H, like capital H's, all the way across the top. So left side, then right down the middle. That way you're able to get that highlight effect across the top. And then you're able to segment out the different pieces of the horn. It's a good trick. Then I'm just speckling direct pigment on top. Break it up so it's a little bit more textured. And that's all we're going to do for the horns. Alright, so that's it for that. Alright, so how about we do the hammer. So for the hammer, we're going to use a deep taupe color for the highlight, which is kind of like a earthy, grayish, a warm gray color. Gonna add a drop of water. There we go. All right. Let's check our consistency on the thumb here. All right, so it looks good. I just had a lot of it on the brush there. All right, so I'll start doing it. I am going to try and follow sort of the way that the wash has landed. It's not going to be as bright as the base color, so we're going to go back up with another highlight. I just want to be able to keep that purpley color. So you can see what's going on there. This is just a nitrile black glove, so it's not latex. That way it's not powdery. It doesn't bind to oils, like the oils in your skin. So we're just layering on that gray color. We are losing, right, some of the highlight, but we're going to go back over it with another highlight. But since all the other colors are nice and solid, that's why we're going back over it with this color to smooth it back out. Keeping some of that undertone in there. And then we'll just go back through. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out today. Working on some Arcadia Quest stuff. Running some commission specials through the end of the month if you're looking to get anything painted. If you are a painter yourself, you can check out my Patreon page or the YouTube or the Facebook page. Give it a follow. I always stream and record all of the commissions that I work on Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I upload the content to the Patreon page. So you'll get all that stuff on there. There we go. So really anybody can learn to do this technique that I'm doing right now. Super easy. You just have to get used to how your brushes work. And once you learn how your brushes work, that's it. That's the only real key. Just pushing around the pigment. It's nice and thin. We're not dealing with a lot of thick paint or anything like that. There we go. This last little section here. There we go. The bottom doesn't matter as much, but we're still going to slap color on there. Like literally that fast. I'm not going to do anything special to it, so there you go. Alright, let's do the back panel. Or back panel, the back side of the hammer. Really fast transition there. Super easy to do. If you're a painter yourself. If not, feel free to hit me up about a commission. Prices are great. I have good reviews. I'm really fast. But enough about me. How about you? How's your day going? Almost to the weekend. Do you have any games you're looking forward to playing this weekend? I know the game that I'm going to be playing this weekend is cleaning my apartment. Unfortunately, even if I win, I end up losing later, so it's a never-ending battle. Alright, so let's highlight that color. We're going to actually mix it with the bone color we just had. That way we're keeping the same palette together, like color palette. All the tones will go nicely together. And it's already there in front of us, so saving more time. All right. We're just going to be focusing on going around the edges of the pieces. That way everything will be a little bit better. Go ahead and leave in the chat if you've been painting on anything, or if you just got anything in the mail. I know a lot of people are getting their Kingdom Death boxes if you were into that game. I know I've had a couple people want to get it painted. I'm pretty excited to get my hands on it. It's got some great miniatures in there. So you can see the really subtle highlights we're going for. So there we go. That side's good. Doing more on the top. All right. Last side. There we go. Alright, so the hammer weapon is finished. We still need to do the shaft and everything and the two little dots coming out, but other than his hooves, he is finished as well. So, I'm not sure what color to do, in all honesty. So we'll see here what we'll figure out on that. So let's see. Give me 1 second. Somebody messaged my phone, so I gotta check that really quick. All right. So for that, I think we are... Let's see. Very weird. Very weird. Okay. All right, so I think we will use... What would make the most sense? A lighter color would make the most sense. So let's go with my favorite color here. We're going to use this raw sienna. And then we'll just ink it. Very, very simple. You can see I'm just going straight up out of the pot with this one. Mostly because I use this color so much that I understand it, like, I could use it in my sleep, but it has really, really good coverage, so, and it's also pretty thin, so there's no reason to mess with it. Alright, the back side. Okay, then we're going to do these little knobs at the top. Alright, so that stuff will dry. And then we're just going to do a wash on top of that and it'll be finished. Excuse my sniffing and coughing. I do have a pretty bad cold right now. It's been killing me all week. Alright, so we're going to put him down for a while. And let's move back to our friend here. Red guy. So I'm not sure if this color would actually work on these. Let me check it out really quick. Just do it on that one section. Actually, yeah, it looks like it will. So here's what we'll do. We're going to pull this out of the pot, and then I'll mix it, thin it down a little bit. And that's what we will use for the highlight color on his bag and his arms and everything. One droplet of water. It's like alchemy. All right. So let's see how thin it is on the glove here. Still a little bit thick. It'll be all right though, for our purposes. Okay. So I'm applying this relatively broadly, but as it dries, it's going to be a lot more mellow than it appears right now whenever we apply it, so we don't have to worry too much. Then I'll be able to do a highlight color on top of it. All right. Working through this. Actually, in my head, I'm trying to figure out what the highlight color would be after this one. We might not even do that. Instead, what we might do is really focus on the skin, so that the skin is like the really hyper detailed piece, and the rest of his body isn't. So we'll see. Alright, so that actually does look pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Alright. So, let's move on to the shoulder strap and everything. Alright, so this is looking pretty okay. Not the worst thing I've ever done in my life here, so... If you're just now joining, painting up some Arcadia Quest guys. So this is going to look pretty good with the contrast of the red. Let's do this side. So I already know the colors we're going to use for the skin. We're going to be highlighting them up to the Vallejo. There we go, the Vallejo Scarlet color, which is more of like a really red-toned orange. So he's going to be pretty bright, which is why this brown color is going to be a great combination on the palette that we're doing. There we go. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now we can focus our attention here on the big bags. So anytime you do a big surface like this, you don't want to dip your pinky into the paint, but what you want to do is do a couple thin coats so that you get a nice even consistency. So that's what I'm going to start doing here real quick. It's just applying it, big brush strokes here, really thin. Moving the brush back and forth relatively quickly. Aiming the best I can for the areas where that highlight's going to be. You can see it's literally dry right here already. So that's how thin this paint's going on. By the time you're done with one side, it's already going to be dry on the other. That's kind of the exact level that you want to be at. That way you're able to do really awesome shading. You're not driving yourself insane. You're not layering on a ton of paint. Alright. So this is going to look really nice. And I realized I just covered up that big shadow there. But we just created another shadow, so it should be okay. If it's not, I can always move this paint out of the way. So that's what I'll do here. There we go. Just increase that a little bit more. Oh man, my voice is going to disappear by the end of the night though, that's for sure. So it's looking pretty good. You can see the effect that's going on there. Really nice and smooth, keeping your brush strokes consistent. Smooth, thin layers. And that's all you have to do to make it look great. Probably going to go for one more pass and then we'll call it good. Because we're essentially just applying the direct pigment at this point, so there's not much more that it can actually be highlighted. Alright, so that's it for the backpack. I think that looks pretty sweet. So now we can do its edge there, the little folded lip. There are mold lines here I didn't cut off, but that's not a big deal. Not a display level example or anything like that, so some mold lines ain't gonna ruin it. All right. So, all that is finished. Now we can begin to focus on his skin. I think it looks pretty good. All right, so let's do that wash really quick on the other guy. We're gonna use, let's go ahead and actually use, I'm not sure what I want to use, actually, now that I'm sitting here with it. Let's do just sepia again. That's it for that side. That's it for that side. So you can see, I mean, super easy to do. And it's going to dry just like that. Give us that shading on there. No problem. Alright, so this entire guy is finished. So we'll set him aside. He's donezo. Let's see if there's anything else I can do really quick, because my usual hour break is about to come up again. So I'm trying to think what I can do on this guy before I take another little break. Let's see. Oh, we could do the base coat on the tongue. Let's give him a blue tongue. I think that sounds pretty cool. Maybe, maybe not, but we'll see. I was trying to see if the person that sculpted this gave him gums. And it doesn't really appear like they gave him gums. Otherwise, I would have tried to attempt some blue gums on there as well. So we'll let that dry. And then we'll just do a quick little highlight inside of his mouth. I have no colors to actually bring that highlight out though, so let me actually get that on here. That's too subtle. We need something better. We need something better than that. So let's use this electric blue. It's not good enough for us. That electric blue is not coming out either. What's going on today? Here we go. Alright, this should be good. Whoops. Whoops, there we go. Whoops, there we go. That, I did not mean to get that in there. Let me actually take some of this wash. Push back that paint. Bam, there we go. Mistakes happen. Alright, so let's actually try and get this on here without messing up the whole mouth. I'm just going to move my brush back and forth, up and down, until I move it close enough to where it starts hitting the tip of the tongue. There we go. There we go. Oh, I did it again. Check me out. I'm messing up. There we go. Get out of there, man. Gonna take that wash again. We got problems. You know what? When in doubt, use black paint. Good lord. Alright. Clean this up real quick. Alright. Fix that whole situation. So now he's got his blue tongue. Sorta. There we go. Now it's perfect. Alright, so now I've been streaming for 2 hours. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. Been going for 2 hours here. Sorry for yelling directly into the mic there. Alright, so for all the 20 people that are watching, I hope you're having an amazing day. So every hour I take a quick break, so I know you guys just joined. But I'm going to take a short break here. So I will return. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you ever need anything commission painted, definitely hit me up and ask. I'm running some specials here towards the end of the month. If you're a painter yourself, you can follow me on Patreon if you'd like. I have 2 different tiers available, extremely cheap. I speed up all the streams that I record Monday through Friday. I do reviews, tutorials. I also offer classes, direct feedback, all kinds of stuff like that if you're trying to get better at painting. So definitely check out the Patreon if you're interested. Otherwise, thanks for checking me out. Go ahead and give the page a like. I'm going to take my break really quick, and I will return. All right. I'm back and I'm barely alive. Let's do it. Okay, so let's work on this guy's skin, shall we? So I think what we're gonna do, take this Vallejo Gory Red, which is too dark to begin with. However, that being said, we're then gonna mix it with this scarlet color, model color scarlet, which is super bright. We're gonna see if we can't make a match made in heaven between the two, which I believe we have achieved. Sweet. So we're gonna do our normal trickery here. If you're a painter yourself and you would like to learn all the methods that I use for painting commissions and you know, all tiers of work that I do from display level to tabletop like we're pretty much doing today, definitely check out my Patreon, give the page a follow. If you are in need of any commission painting, feel free to hit me up, hit the quote button, send me a message, send me a wave. I think that's like the new version of poking on Facebook, is a wave, which is extremely weird. All right. Let's get to business here. So let's check the color here on the good old glove, do the glove test. Glove test looks good. So, what should we get started on? Let's just go ahead and do his face. Why not? Perfect. So this is actually a perfect tone to go back over all the reds. Then we'll really be able to go to town on that scarlet when we highlight it back up. So in some parts of this, it's going to look like I'm just making it wet because the tone's not that different. Other parts, it'll obviously look like a highlight. That's not really the focus. The focus of this color is to set the base tone for the scarlet colored highlights so that he has some serious popping going on. And that'll be the idea. So we're just doing these thin layers so it dries really fast. If you've been watching, you already know the deal. Nice thin coats. No thick paint allowed. Heard somebody post a comment somewhere. Let's see what it says. Oh. Not for me. Alright. So, I mean, really just a brighter red, but what I'm trying to do is just clean up kind of these darker areas of shadow, if I can speak. So pretty subtle color here, at least in difference, but you'll see when we start cracking on that secondary highlight that it's really going to pick up quite a bit. using a size 00 synthetic sable brush for those that care. I primarily just use size 00 for everything. Synthetic sable as well. I know some people will say sable is the best to use. Technically, sable is really meant for watercolor and will be dissolved and broken down by acrylic paint over time, so, you know, you can't fight science, but they are pretty nice. Alright, that side of the face looks good. We'll move towards the back. I don't need to touch that. I'll clean this stuff up a little bit. There are some mold lines on here. We're not doing a crazy display level example, so I wasn't going to shave down the models or anything. Depending on the level of commission, I'll spend more time cleaning up your models. Or if there's just like a terrible mistake in the mold, then I'll obviously fix it because nobody wants that. But usually tabletop level, I'm pretty lax with. Heroic level, the second tier that I offer, I go in, clean up more. Display level, you're going to be hard pressed to find the mistakes in the mold, so. So on the rest of the model, just going through relatively quickly, highlighting back up to the base color. After that singular wash that I applied to pretty much every single one of these guys we're painting. Following through on the knuckle rule on hands and fingers, so I'm not going to focus anything underneath that, just doing the knuckles and the top of the hand. Just like that. Moving on towards the back. Hope you guys are having a good day. They're hanging out. If you have any fun weekend plans, any games you're going to be playing. Alright, so we are effectively all highlighted up here, back to that base color. Just do the little final touches here on the fingers and everything. Then we'll get cracking on the better highlights. Alright, so I'm going to add in that scarlet color. Alright, let's do the thumb test. That was water, that's not the actual paint. Hold on. It looked super thin, but that was just water. Alright, yeah, looks good to me. So we'll stick with that. Alright. Let's start making this guy look awesome. Shall we? Oh yeah, this is gonna be perfecto. Just enough of a highlight. As it dries, you'll be able to see it better. I kind of want to go a little bit brighter with it. But it's just so good right now. Let's do one step up. Let's roll the dice. See what happens. Oh, that was way too much. Oh, I just threw the bottle. Alright, we're getting wild here. Getting wild. Alright, I'm going to mix it up. I'm actually going to add a little bit more of the medium. Wherever that's at. There it is. Oh, check me out. We're just having a day of it, huh? There we go. Jeez, man. I'm like a garbage fire right now. Alright. Okay. So let's see what's going on. There we go. I'm loving that color. Sort of that bright scarlet orange. So, it looks like a pretty good highlight to me. Actually, we're going to do a different color for his lips. So I'm going to ignore his lips for now. Top of the ear. Dot his little warts. The warts he's got going on. All right, let's continue on. Thin coats, long strokes up here. Keep it nice and smooth. We just want a really consistent highlight. There we go. And all of these layers dry less and less intense than the other ones, so that's what we got going on with that. So again, if you're looking to have any board game stuff painted, I also do war games, Warhammer stuff, role-playing game miniatures, you name it, I can paint it. If you'd like anything done, send me a message, hit the quote button. If you'd like to guesstimate without any of that, you can just go to my website, Mini Painting Studio, well, minipainting.studio/pricing. You can check all that stuff out. You can see the different tiers I have available. If you yourself are a painter and you're looking to learn new tips, see all of my condensed work I do throughout the week, take part in some of my classes that I do, you can check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/minipaintingstudio, and you can be a part of that. Alright, so I think that looks pretty good here for his highlight compared to that highlight. There's that highlight, so working on his chest here. We're going to go real cartoony, so his nipple is going to be the same color as his lips that we're about to do in a second. Well, not in a second, but after this, so we're going to go very anime, give him some color. Nice thin coats here. Anywhere where you're applying a broad amount of paint, you want to make sure you're doing thin coats. Looking pretty good. Need to get this little area. Awesome. All right, let's do his hand. Highlighting the shoulders here. Or not the shoulders, but his back. Alright, so he currently has half of his body done. He's got this vein action going on his forehead. Alright, so continuing the focus here. He'll be done before we know it. And again, we're doing the lips in a totally different color, so I'm going to ignore that for now. Alright, so that side of his face is done as well. Back up here. These miniatures are nice to paint because the detail isn't super insane. Really easy to get good effects on. Definitely look good when they're done. Gotta check my phone here, sorry. Alright. Finishing up on his hand. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out today. Appreciate you. Alright, so that is it. Let's go for his lips. So this should be pretty entertaining here. Bumping the camera everywhere, I know, sorry. So he already has a blue tongue. So we're trying to get that contrast between hot and cold going. We're going to be doing this light purple base color before we go in with the detail color. Hit those obviously appropriate nips. All right, so now that we have that on there, we're going to go in and do all the detail. All right. So we're going to be highlighting up to this pale violet red color. So that's why we did the pale purple first. That way it'll still tie in with the red overall, but it will have that cool tone to tie in with his blue tongue. All right, so now we're going to do one more step up. This time directly applying it. So I'm just doing these in lines so that we're breaking it up to create texture. And in that way, when I go in for the final highlight color, it'll all be lined out. For the upper lip, that will be the final color. Alright, so now we'll do this highlight business. I just had something really weird happen. I had wash on my finger, and then it dried right there, and I just ripped it off. So that's why I'm reapplying the red, because I just messed up his arm. Alright, back to this highlight. Then a super highlight, we're just doing lines. To really create texture there. There we go. Nothing more cartoony than a big, tough, devilish dude with bright, purpley pink lips and nipples. So I think that also keeps with kind of the comedy nature of that game. So you have these two goofballish guys. Alright. Let's go ahead and finish up his robe. Not his robe, but his loincloth. That'll be super easy. Super quick. Alright. Glove check is good. Using a really light ivory color here. There we go. That's all we require there. Back's going to be a little bit trickier. More surface area. Gonna thin this down a little bit more. Obviously, there's a lot of contrast right there, so we're gonna fudge the back a little bit, but it's all right. We'll leave it at that. Not fancy, but good enough. All right, so now we have this weapon. That's going to be easy. We're going to use that same gray color. Deep taupe. Should be perfect for this. Of course it is. Watering it down a little bit for the transition. So there we go. Using the really thin version of it on the sides here. There we go. So that way that transition color is really light, and then it just goes directly to the pigment. Clean up the edges. All right, so does it for that. Okay, so you know what that means. We've got the big boy. So all I've done on this guy, just like all the other ones, if you're just now joining, the only thing I did was paint base colors and apply a wash. So that's where you get all the shading and all the detail, right? But it's just base coats. And then the same way that we did with these, we're going to take him and just highlight him up until he looks good. If you missed the beginning of the stream, we did this guy first. So that's what we're going to be doing. Before we hop in and start knocking out this guy, I'm going to run to the restroom really quick. So I will return shortly. And we're going to bust open a different palette there to use on this guy. And yeah, I'll be right back. So hang in there. All right. Checking my phone really quick. All right, so let's get cracking on this big dude. What's up, Will Swan? All right. So what should we do first here? How about we do the metal? It's probably gonna be easiest. All right. So I thinned down the paint. The other metallic color underneath is actually going to shine through once it dries. Should create a pretty cool effect. Trying to find the best angle to actually look at it while I'm doing it. All right, here we go. There we go. So there's that base level highlight. Then we'll do one more too of the metal. But the first layer is going to be that gunmetal color. One second. All right, so we're going to keep moving up here. So just going over this metal. Nothing crazy. I do want to keep most of it looking dirty. A lot of it too is hidden underneath his horns, so that's fine. We're just focusing on bringing those highlights up so that it shines a little bit more. But it looks pretty good so far. We are going to hit this with one more highlight layer too, for metallics anyway. Do his helmet. If you're just now joining, hope you guys are having a good day. Just having fun working on these Arcadia quest guys. If you ever need anything painted, running some specials for the end of the month here. Feel free to like the page. You can follow everything that I'm doing painting-wise all the time. Follow my live streams. If you're a painter yourself, I do have a Patreon where I have different levels, just 2 different levels though, but sped up streams, so I speed up everything I work on throughout the week so you don't have to sit and try and sift through hours of footage. Tutorials, product reviews, I teach classes on there. All kinds of good stuff if you're a painter looking for new tips and everything, but you can check that out. The link is on the frame there, so you can go to patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. So there we go, there's that base level highlight. So now we can move on to the secondary. Wherever it is, I'm looking for it. It's right here. Alright, so we're going to keep going around the edge. Edge of this. Just a brighter silver. Give it more of a dynamic edge. Backside, I'm not going to highlight. This we will, though. Definitely Battletoads. This is the main character, or the head villain from Battletoads. His name is Cruising Ted. You can tell by the skeletal features and the Zodiac Killer vibe. Alright, so those metallics are looking pretty good. Oh, I totally didn't even realize his feet down there are metallic. Well, that's great. Okay. Great. Well, we'll fix that. All right, so that's good. We're only gonna do that gunmetal on the legs because they're all in shadow anyway. I would assume his greaves are just dirty, so we're just gonna lightly highlight it up on there. Since they aren't the focal point of the miniature, no one's gonna be looking at that. Especially if you don't make it look cool, nobody's gonna be looking at it. Knock out the back, knock out the back. Alright. So, those metals are done. Why don't we focus on the bone? That'll be easy. My favorite kind of ice cream is troll flavored or meme flavored. Those are both my my go-to. Meme flavored ice cream, probably some of the best out there. Alright, so I'm gonna get this stuff out of the way. We're going to use this bone color, mix in a little bit of the wash mixing medium, 1 drop of water. There we go. Alright, we're gonna mix it all up. It looks great. Perfect, cool. So let's get to his face here. Let's do the glove test. Looks pretty thin. Might be too thin. We'll find out. Knock out all of his teeth. I'm going to not highlight one of them, so it's just different from the rest. There we go. Alright, we're going to start layering up the rest of the bone. If you have any questions or anything like that, obviously, feel free to ask. If you've ever thought about learning to paint, anything like that, you can always check out my Patreon page. You can feel free to follow this Facebook page as well, since I have all of my streams on there. Patreon page, definitely great for people looking to learn new techniques, things like that. If you don't like painting and it's not something that you normally would want to do, but you do have stuff you want painted, feel free to send me a quote, a message, or a quote request, I should say. I have some specials going on towards the end of the month here. If you want more detailed pricing information, you can always go to my website, minipainting.studio/pricing. And you can check out more information about that in depth. Everything we've been painting today pretty much is heroic level. Beyond the 10% off through the rest of the month, I'm also doing a Kingdom Death special where you can pay tabletop quality price and get a heroic level commission, saving you a few $100, mostly because I just really want to get one of those commissions under my belt. So you can see we're just going through here real lightly, creating those transitions. On the spots where it's really dark, it's okay, because it's going to dry really thin, so it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll go back over it. So just layering on the bone again. There we go. All right, so his bone's looking pretty sweet. It's a good effect going on there. All right. All right, so the next thing to knock out there would be his horns. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. Pretty simple here. Now there are areas here where the wash was really heavy, and that's fine. You can just go over it. Multiple layers won't kill you. Since this is so thin, you'll have to do multiple layers anyway. So we'll let that side dry as we go to the next one. All you're having to do is just paint straight lines. Pretty simple. Alright, so we're going to let that side dry, go back to the first one. Just going to finish up these connecting lines here. There we go. Alright. Alright, so you can see right there, right, I've added those little dots instead of trying to do transitions, just to kind of show there's more texture going on his horns. Alright, so that's those. He does have the horn on top there. And his nails. There we go. All right. So we have a couple different options where we can go next. Could work on his cloak. Why don't we do that? So we're just using Army Painter Army Green. Just going to thin it out with water. I'm not going to use the wash medium. Test it on the glove here. Looks good. So the green that I'm applying is going to be relatively brighter than what's already there. But we'll be able to do an in-between wash after the highlight, kind of like how we did the red effect on the Minotaur guy's eyes. Then we'll have a perfect little shade transition going on. Alright. To the tail here, tail end of the cape. Applying this color really thin. Multiple coats, obviously, will be best. Alright, so we're going to let that really thin layer dry really quick. After it dries, then we'll knock out the full highlights on it. We can do some of these down here on the bottom cloak, but they're so subtle. Alright. Go back on them for round 2. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out. Hope you've had a great week so far. If you ever need anything painted, I'm running some specials here for the end of the month. If you yourself are learning how to paint, I do have a Patreon where I share techniques, I teach some classes depending on the level that you, the tier that you decide to become a patron on. Different tips, methods that I use every day on the commissions that I do. Alright, so we color blocked in all of that stuff. Obviously leaving that darker color area. So now what I'm going to do is wash this light, bright green. Or not bright green, but this army green color. And we're going to wash it. And that way it'll bring in that tone that we have on here already, that dark tone. Then we'll do a low light, but essentially what we're doing is then going in and filling in the gaps. So once that's dry, we'll apply it. If you're just now joining, we'll look back at what we did earlier today in the stream. So earlier today we finished this guy. Gave him a nice bruised eye on both sides, that red bruise. After him, Finish this guy. After the stream is over as well, I'll re-upload the whole thing in 1080p to my YouTube channel. Facebook may or may not repost it in HD. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I'll have it uploaded there. If you're interested in seeing more of my streams, make sure you like the page. Again, if you subscribe to my Patreon, one of the things that I do is I actually edit together and speed up the stream, so you don't have to sift through footage. Alright, so this is pretty much dry. So now what we're going to do is use an Army Painter green wash. I'm going to mix it with the sepia tone as well, so it'll have a lot more actual pigment coverage. What we're doing is we're essentially mixing the two tones, what already exists on the cape and then what we're trying to achieve. Alright, so here it is, right here. Alright. So here comes this action. I may actually need to use a bigger brush. Let me grab a bigger brush. This one will work. Okay. So while this is still wet on here, I'm going to take another dry brush and wipe it off on the ridges while it's settling. I'm just using a crappy brush for this. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm wiping it off before it dries. Allowing me to really control where I'm letting this wash sit. So when we do go back in for those highlight colors, they'll blend together a lot more. Obviously it looks, I mean the pigment looks really crazy right now because that wash is still wet. But if I hit it with a fan really quick, I'll be able to knock it out a lot. Alright, so I'm going to hit this with a fan. I literally have one set up directly right next to me. It'll probably take 30 seconds for this to dry. And once it's dry, you'll see what we just did. It's a pretty nice little trick. Definitely handy. So you can see it starting to dry already. Really toning down. Drying even more. As I drop it, but drying even more. Bumping the camera. Bumping the camera again. Sorry about that. There we go. Essentially the shade that we just applied on there, that's drying right now if you're just now joining, is really going to tie together the army color, the army green that we just applied. And then we'll just reapply that same color. So you can see right here, it's already drying again. And it's really tying in those really steep transitions we had. So probably another 30 seconds or so and it'll be ready. Let's see. We're getting there. Almost done. The green shade from Army Painter does have green pigment in it, so that's why it's killing some of those really, really dark shadows that were there. So it's getting there. This is really the only time in 3.5 hours we've had to wait for something to dry, so pretty rare. Normally I have at least something that starts to dry on here. So, it is pretty much dry now. So you can see, killed a lot of that really harsh transition. So we can just go in and reapply it. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit more though. Alright, let's see. Good enough for me to actually go in and finish it, so let's do that. Turn the fan off. Alright. Taking this green. So you can see I'm just going to be layering this on. That wash that we applied really helped pull it all together. And the wash is still drying, but not in any way that's going to interfere with what we're doing right now. So you can see that transition. It's not as crazy. It's still a little wet and reflective. One thing I am doing, since there is this kind of cracked texture, I'm going through and doing those highlights on the actual ridges of those wrinkles and cracks. Really, these are just cracks. They're not even wrinkles. So that's where I'm applying them. Alright, so that cape is pretty much done. It's obviously still drying. But that's where we're at with that. And he's looking pretty good. Alright, so let me pull this up. Hopefully they both, or they all kind of have the same vibe. I think they do. Yeah. All right, so we knocked out all of those three in 3.5 hours. That's not too bad. Just kind of playing around. So, as soon as this stream is over, I'll be uploading it back to the YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. If you're ever in need of having anything commission painted, feel free to message my page. I'm doing specials through the 31st. I also have a Patreon if you yourself are a painter and you're looking for condensed streams, some classes, tutorials, back and forth interaction, you name it. I've got that going on the Patreon as well. So thanks for hanging out today. Make sure you like and follow the page. I'll be streaming every day like I normally do. So, thanks again, everybody. Hope you guys have a great day.